Welcome to Locutors of Trek First Contact, the show where we
make first contact right here.
Yes, we do. And this time we will make first contact with author and many other things, Tom Salinsky. How you doing, Tom?
I'm all right. Pleasure to be here. I'm a bit croaky. Sorry about that, but it's not ill health. It's just an overexertion of the vocal cords over the last several days.
Ah, all good. You're singing some songs.
Something like that, yes.
On the press tour, you know, we're one of these stops along here.
We are your ambassadors for this afternoon, depending on which side of the pond you're on. Davin and Dave.
Hello.
The cousins of Trek, low cousins of Trek.
Low cousins of Trek, yes.
Yeah. Before we get into it, I know you got a new book on Star Trek coming out, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
We have a thing here we called the Space Line. I'm going to do a quick rapid fire with you. Okay? It's entirely Trek related. All right. So, just to set up a little baseline, we know where we're coming from. All right. Favorite show?
Right now, Lower Decks.
Favorite episode?
I've just watched The City on the Edge of Forever, and that still takes an awful lot of beating.
Okay. Good one. Favorite movie?
Rothacon. I'm not mad.
Who's your captain?
Picard.
Favorite character?
Oh, Data.
Favorite villain?
Is Garak a villain?
I'd accept that answer because he at least certainly was.
Yes.
He's like an anti-hero or a reformed villain, maybe.
Favorite alien species?
I guess it's too basic to say Vulcans.
No, they're interesting. Planet you would most like to visit?
Ooh, planet. I mean, Risa seems like the obvious one.
Yet it's the one everyone chooses, so it's not. It's acceptable.
Sure. Okay. Actually, what the planet I'd probably most like to visit would be Earth in the 24th century.
That's a great answer. Favorite ship?
Probably the Enterprise D.
Good choice.
And the last one, if you're up on your TOS references, biggest Herbert.
No. What's a Herbert?
You know,
do you remember the Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
The space hippie episode.
Oh, right.
Like Herbert's.
Yeah.
Who's the lamest character in Star Trek? Who's the biggest Herbert?
Right.
Chakotay?
That's an interesting answer.
It's partly because I can almost see Robert Beltran after about 2 years just going, I just can't be bothered with this.
There were times he felt like he didn't want to be there.
Yeah. I don't think that I actually need to do very much. It's not like I can give them very much to do anyway. It's just, and no one else, plenty of people got signed up to 7-year contracts and didn't find their characters getting explored in any meaningful way. But I think only Robert Beltran just kind of checked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, he was pretty checked out I'd say he was checked out after even like the 3rd season in some ways. But
they kept giving him episodes, though.
They did. Yeah.
Well, they tried. Sort of. I mean, the whole Chakotay thing is complicated.
Oh, you guys must know that they went to all the trouble of finding a Native American who lived in California who could come and advise them about Native American traditions and so on, and sat down with this guy and had him talk to the writers and so on. And
Jamaki Highwater.
Yeah, exactly. And then only later discovered that he was couldn't be less of a Native American and was making all this stuff up off the top of his head.
His real name was like Jake Schwartz or something.
Yes, something like that.
It's like, what? Yeah, that's embarrassing on the studio's part, really. So you've got this new book coming out here. Oh, geez, let me bring it back up. Star Trek Discovering the TV Series. And it explores TOS, the animated series, which I don't think is something most Trekkies have explored, really, the animated series.
Not even us so much, have we? Like, I don't know how
No,
much
we haven't gotten there yet either.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of it myself. You know,
I've watched it all. But,
all of it, every episode?
Oh, yeah.
I can't even say that, you know, so...
There's only, 22 episodes, and they're pretty short.
Yeah, it's not that many.
Is that all it is? I should be able to get through 22.
Oh, yeah. And, like... A couple of them are good. No, I'm just kidding. But no, there's some stuff there. And of course the Next Generation. So I guess my first question is, what made you want to write a book exploring these 3 series, which, other than the animated series, have been explored quite a bit by other books and even podcasts like our own? What is it that you thought you noticed that you could kind of add to that conversation?
Well, it was all a bit of an accident, really. I recently finished doing a podcast series in which, with 2 friends, we had watched, assessed, and researched every movie that had won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. And to make life interesting for ourselves, we'd done it by picking them out of a hat at random. So we never knew what movie was going to come out next.
What was the name of that?
It was called Best Pick.
Okay, Best Pick.
And there's a book to accompany that as well. Whatever books are sold. That kind of completist in me, that liking that kind of project, that's very much a part of who I am. So I was sort of vaguely on the lookout for another project like that. And then it occurred to me to wonder how much Star Trek I'd ever actually seen, because I've always been a Doctor Who fan, always been a Hitchhiker's fan, but there were things that made Star Trek harder to get when I was growing up in the UK. So there were odd episodes of the original series shown on BBC Two, but it took a while for the Next Generation to come here. When Next Generation was first on in America, I had to go and rent VHS tapes with 2 episodes per tape, and they would bring out one of those a month. So I took a long
with those
time.
big, thick cardboard.
Yeah.
I had a couple of those.
Yeah. And then eventually they started showing us on BBC Two, and then after about 3 years, Sky got the rights. And that was one of the things they were trying to use to draw people to get satellite dishes. But that meant that, I don't know what it was, like 20% of UK homes could watch Star Trek instead of 100% when it was on the BBC. Especially with the other spin-offs, I kind of lost track of it. And then since then, I've been able to kind of pick up bits and pieces. And I was watching Discovery and Strange New Worlds and so on. But I thought, how much of this have I actually seen? So I made myself a spreadsheet. And what I discovered was...
You and Cousin Dave here have a lot of...
Yeah, you just excited me with this mention.
What I discovered was if I started watching Star Trek from the beginning on January the 1st of 2022, and I watched 1 episode a day, then on Christmas Day 2023, I would finish watching Enterprise.
Oops, what am I doing here?
And that seemed just like too neat a thing to pass up. So it was originally it was a private challenge, but a bit like other like resolutions. If you want to stick at something, tell other people what you're doing. So there was a daily tweet, and I was doing 4 or 5 episodes worth of reviews on just my blog. And then a friend of a friend on Facebook put this post up after I've been doing this for about 6 months, saying that his publisher was looking for people who had ideas for books in the science fiction, telefantasy, non-fiction space. And so I pitched this. And so my private challenge became, well, it's going to be a series of books. So book 1 is original series, animated series, Next Gen. Then book 2, actually, it's probably going to be book 2 and book 3 now. We're still having that conversation. But book 2 is going to be, I think, Deep Space Nine and the beginning of Voyager. And then book 3 is going to be the rest of Voyager and Enterprise. And then I'll sprinkle in the Next Gen movies, which I haven't done those yet. I didn't want to end the book on Nemesis. Come on.
No, who would?
Well, I don't think they wanted to end the story on Nemesis either.
No, but we are where we are.
Yeah. Well,
there's a question there. I one thing I've never really understood, and one thing you just kind of piqued my interest with talking about how you were able to really watch Star Trek: The Next Generation, like I guess in its heyday, or you know, eventually it came to the TV, and here in North America, like it was. Like Davin, I'm sure you can remember when we were kids, like how popular the show was, and how
when I got home from school every day, Star Trek, either TNG Voyager or Deep Space Nine, was on 3 different channels and stayed on 3 different channels for 3 hours after that. Like, it was everywhere.
Yeah, like, but especially like when Next Generation ended in like 1994, and like that finale, like my parents went out of their way to watch the finale, you know, and my dad didn't watch a lot of like TV or those episodes. So my question, I guess, is like, in the UK, was it like really not as big and popular, and you know, and what is it now? Like, how?
No, I think. But now I'll be everything on Paramount Plus,
Right.
so it's a lot easier. In fact, there was quite a lot of outrage when Paramount Plus launched, and they said that everything was going over there that was Star Trek related. And then I can't remember which series it would have been. It would have been either a Discovery, or it might have been series 1 of Strange New Worlds. Wasn't going to be coming to, or Paramount Plus wasn't going to launch in the UK in time, or something like that. And that was a big thing about it. Yeah, so lots of British UK Star Trek fans now. But yeah, it was harder. It was on BBC Two initially, which is, you know, not a minority channel, but it's anything on BBC Two will get half the audience of anything on BBC One. And then, like I said, it was on in the 90s. It was mainly on Sky, and most homes did not have a satellite dish and could not get access to Sky One. So I had a friend from school whose parents had a satellite dish who would tape it off air for me. And that's how I watched a lot of those episodes in the 90s.
But were you sort of like on an island, or was there just like, or I guess, how big was the Star Trek following back in those days in the UK?
I was never part of organized Star Trek fandom, so I think there were enthusiasts, but it was never the ratings giant that it was in North America.
Gotcha. Okay.
The other thing I
Did
find interesting
Patrick
about
Stewart change that at all?
I think but there was kind of grudging respect, I think, for the fact that Patrick Stewart was doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, don't forget Marina.
And Marina, yes, absolutely, yes,
Sure.
yeah.
You know, I was wondering, you mentioned your next 2 books. Was it just a page count thing that you like do a bit of Voyager rather than do a DS9?
Yeah, so the
Voyager
original plan
book?
was it was just 2 books. It makes sense on paper to say first 3 series in book 1 and second 3 series in book 2. But it was only after we actually sent book 1 to the presses that we realized there's almost twice as many episodes to cover in the last 3 series. Yeah, and this publisher doesn't like publishing fat books, I've discovered. So we went, I had to sub something like 10,000 words out of this book in order to get it down to their approved page count.
Oh, wow.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, we would tell you before we went on the air, we've been going through this process of watching. We did original series, which was 79 episodes. That was more manageable, but not doing one a day. We've been doing one a week, pretty much, on Deep Space Nine for nearly 4 years now. We're about to finish, you know, and it's been quite the journey. But maybe it's not the journey that matters.
I'm not convinced the 7th year is the best of Deep Space Nine, but
we're pretty convinced it isn't.
We're pretty convinced the best season was season 5.
Which I would think is probably the best season of any TV ever, in my opinion. Yeah. Season 5 of DS9 is pretty great.
It is. Yeah, no arguments there. But yeah, like we David and I and other millennials, I guess, who kind of grew up like in the golden age of Star Trek, you know, that started with, like, I'd say Next Generation, like even before that with like Wrath of Khan, and kind of leading all the way up until when Enterprise ended. In 2005, and then, you know, now it's, I don't know, I feel like Star Trek is less present in the pop culture, competing with all these other sci-fi franchises like Star Wars and Doctor Who even, and many other things. And I'm always like, is it on the decline, or is it strong? Is it as strong as ever? I don't know if that's a question you can really answer, but that's just sort of where my thoughts go. But.
Well, kind of going on this journey and looking into some of the history, what was interesting to me was that it's really only Next Generation, which was a proper mainstream hit while it was on the air.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The original series was always under threat of cancellation.
Right.
And they basically got rid of it as soon as they could. Then it became a success in syndication. But I think it's even though it was very influential, people were always making fun of it. And though the movies were making lots of money, you know, there were always jokes on late night talk shows about how old the cast looked. So you guys probably know all this, but I find it fascinating that when Paramount did the deal with Gene Roddenberry, okay, we're going to bring Star Trek back. You're in charge. We're going to have a new crew, and we're going to put all this money behind it. They couldn't find an American network that would take it.
No, yeah.
So they had to do this insane thing of stitching together a network out of like 70 or 80 individual syndication deals. But that they had a huge bargaining chip when they were doing these deals. You know what I'm going to say?
The first run syndication, or
yeah, but do you know what bargaining chip they had when they were trying to convince stations to take the new Star Trek? All these stations were making bank rerunning the old Star Trek, and so Paramount said, if you want to keep rerunning the old show, you have to take the new show.
Oh,
yeah,
there you go.
And so they because nobody thought the new show was going to work. Because Star Trek without Kirk and Spock, are you crazy?
Well, look, season 1 TNG, it almost didn't work.
It very clearly didn't.
Yeah, it didn't.
Once that show got into its stride, it was a real ratings hit, and Paramount made a fortune. But the spin-off shows, even though I love Deep Space Nine as much as you guys do, but it was never a hit with the general public in the way that Picard, Data, Riker, Troy show was.
Yeah, they had a magic with those characters, and the original series, you're right, not as popular when it was on the air, but huge in syndication in the 70s. My parents grew up in the 70s. They became really into the show. Look at that weird looking thing. Isn't that funny looking? That was kind of there. And then the movies came along, and and around the time we're little kids is when Next Generation debuts, and then. Yeah, I don't really remember the controversy around those early seasons because I was so young. But by the time I'm kind of really watching the show, when it's almost near the end, it was so popular. It was on all these references. Patrick Stewart hosted Saturday Night Live. They were putting it on on chip bags and it was the licensing and just the mass appeal. And then I'd say Deep Space Nine comes along and Voyager, which I love those shows, but they just never had the audience, and people just didn't care the same way, and I'm sad about that. But
and the other thing I think is weird, and this sort of dawned on me as I was watching Voyager, one of those things that you don't plan, it's just the way these things work out. But Deep Space Nine obviously stands out because it's arguably the least optimistic of all the Star Trek iterations. But it's a bit weird when you have those two shows on the air at the same time on the same network, both on UPN. That the show about the characters who hang out at a shopping mall in space is the one which is about the horrors of war and deep psychological conflicts and generational trauma, and the one which is about a small group of survivors clinging to the wreckage of their ship, which has been flung to the other side of the galaxy, is the one about meeting funny aliens and having good times and spreading the optimistic message of the Federation. You wouldn't sit down and plan it like that, I don't think.
Well, I guess there's something to be said for being able to fly away the next day. And Deep Space Nine, they can't get away from their neighbors. And
that's
this
it.
Is
yeah. The bad decisions you made last week come back to haunt you this week.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So when you went through this process, so you're already a fan of Star Trek when you decided to rewrite the book, and then you say, okay, I don't know it as well as I'd like to. So after you go through this process of watching those first three series, original, animated, and Next Gen, what changed for you in your perception of Star Trek as a whole, or any of those individual shows?
So Next Gen was the one I knew best because I'd already bought the Blu-rays and sat and watched those as they came out. That was about 10 years ago now, so they weren't
remastered
super fresh in my mind. But yeah, they look fantastic.
Yeah.
But I really didn't know the original series well at all. In fact, the other source of Star Trek when I was very little was the James Blish books, which were one book would have 5 or 6 short story length renderings.
I think I have some of those.
Yeah, of episodes. So what I'm thinking about is these classic episodes like Trouble with Tribbles or City on the Edge of Forever or Spectre of the Gun. I'm more likely to be thinking of the prose version.
I got this. I got the.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly. That's the point. So I kind of knew Star Trek the original series more by reputation than anything else. I also remember devouring the Stephen Whitfield book about the making of Star Trek, which is one of the first books to go behind the scenes of a television show, let alone one of the first non-fiction books about Star Trek. So I sort of felt I knew more about what was going on behind the scenes than actually what the shows consisted of. So I was pretty open-minded. I actually started with the Cage as episode 0 on New Year's Eve, so it didn't count as part of the rundown. And I thought the word that's always associated with that episode is cerebral. It's too cerebral for American television. It's too cerebral. Americans won't get it. And I watched it and I thought, yeah, I know what they mean, but I actually think what's missing is the camaraderie between the crew. When number one goes back on the ship and they're trying to decide what to do, they sound very cold and objective. There's no sense that our friend is trapped on the planet and we have to go and get him back because we love him. It's just, how do we solve this problem? It's like they're doing space Sudoku. And that's what's missing. It's that warmth. And so when I then started watching original series and I see William Shatner, whose performance has been so often parodied, I think it strikes me immediately is unlike Jeffrey Hunter as Captain Pike.
Unfairly kind of.
Well, he's a good actor, but the part he's been given is this sort of battle-scarred veteran. And crucially, the difference I think is that Captain Kirk likes being captain of the Enterprise.
Yes.
And even more importantly, William Shatner loves being Captain Kirk. Yeah. And that just kind of breathes this warmth and energy into the whole thing. So I was really pleased that I watched that first. And so, yeah, even in the later series when he starts, how does one say this kindly, trying to bolster weak scripts.
Oh, yeah. There's some chewing of some scenery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's still some charisma to burn. In the book, I say that there's excellent Canadian actor William Shatner, and there's his evil doppelganger, the Shat. And you have to watch out for when the Shat shows up and starts injecting week-long pauses into the middle of sentences that don't need to be there.
Yeah, he tells the story about how he just wanted the show so much to work that he just tried so hard, and it is embellished and over exaggerated, and sometimes not so much. But I think that like when I went through the whole original series run, I watched that with my dad and Jody and Adam and a few others. The big thing I was like this reputation that Kirk has as sort of like, I guess the rebel, the guy who spits at authority, who the characterization we got in the Chris Pine version. Yeah, I'm like, that's
first ask questions later. Yeah, that's not this guy.
That's not this character at all.
He's a pretty by the books guy.
He's a pretty by the book. He's he's like a soldier or like an officer. You know, he's very procedure driven. Yeah, like he's not that character.
It's not his fault that alien women throw themselves.
Now he did like to get with the women, but
that part is true.
Yeah. That part's true, but that maybe not as well. I don't know. You could debate it.
It's almost every episode, but
yeah.
That and redshirting are the two things which turned out to be completely true. As you say, as opposed to Captain Kirk we come a piece shit to kill. Which definitely isn't true. Or the other thing I remember very clearly from the Whitfield book is this NBC directive that no naked belly buttons be seen on any women, which appears to be in some memos, but is clearly, if it was a directive by NBC, is not one that was...
Never made it.
Exactly. Not one that was upheld.
Yeah. I think they read it in the opposite, actually. No women could be on screen unless they showed their belly.
Don't let those be covered up.
Yeah, exactly.
There is quite a lot of sexism in the old show.
I find it a bit distracting, actually.
Yeah.
It's like just that filter that they put on. Like if there's a close up on a man, it's all shadowy because they put the shadow filter on. But if there's they put a close up on a woman, there's all those like sparkles like going off and everything.
Yeah, and her eyes are like kind of going over the place.
It's so strange.
And then the soundtrack goes nuts. All these wailing saxophones. It's like something out of a Tex Avery cartoon. It's kind of embarrassing.
But it has its high points. Like you say, A City on the Edge of Forever is your favorite episode. So we have this show on our network called Debate 9, where we do many debates on funny Star Trek themes or even serious ones. You're welcome to participate sometime if you like.
Sure.
It's a fun show. But one of the ones we've had recently was I had a debate on one side of it, actually, was... Is The City on the Edge of Forever a great Star Trek episode, or is it just a great sci-fi episode? And how would you answer that question?
I think it's both. I think it's a great science fiction concept. Rewatching it recently, one of the things that struck me is I bet Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis have watched this more than once. So much of Back to the Future seems like it's been lifted from here. And of course, those are 2 time travel stories. I bet a lot of the things I'm thinking of are in an awful lot of time travel stories in an awful lot of different media. But a few things just really jumped out to me, like it's roughly 30 years, so made in the 60s, set in the 30s, as opposed to Back to the Future, made in the 80s, set in the 50s. The gag of knowing what the future will hold by looking at an image of a newspaper and seeing the headline change. They even have a crazy old man with a beard who looks basically identical in both iterations. But the reason it's a good Star Trek episode is because, like all the best episodes of the original series for me, it's focused on who the characters are. One of the things that drove me crazy, particularly about some of the later episodes of Voyager and Enterprise, is these are just some guys who have a problem to solve. But City on Edge of Forever plays out very differently if somebody other than Kirk and Spock go through that portal. Because it plays out the way it does because it's Kirk, because his idealism makes him fall in love with Edith Keeler, and because it's Spock who then has to stop him. And it's because nobody loves Kirk more than Spock. And you can see how much it hurts Spock to have to stop Kirk. And I watched it with a friend of mine because I'm recording a little podcast series of my own to kind of help promote the book. And she pointed out at the end, you see the camera kind of checking in with everybody who went down on the planet. Like how do we feel at the end of this ordeal? Checking in with Kirk, checking in with Spock, checking in with Uhura, who, as far as she knows, they're going to be gone for a second. But it's the pain in Kirk's eyes. Yes, William Shatner I'm telling you, he's a good actor. Really sells that. So yeah, that's what makes it a good Star Trek episode for me.
Watch Boston Legal if you don't think he's a good actor.
Oh, I've watched Boston Legal.
Or Tech War.
He's great in that. Well, maybe not Tech War.
Maybe not Tech War.
This is Airplane 2, one of the great comedy performances of all time.
Oh, there you have it. Yeah. Airplane 2.
I'm a fan. And you're right, Canadian. Felt like diving into myself. As was James Doohan, who not
Canadian war hero, that fella.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that the camaraderie between like the characters, I think in both Next Gen and in original series / animated series, is at the core of what really I think puts those shows kind of maybe a little bit above the others that came after them. Like I don't think it's absent in the other shows, but you just feel it like with the original series cast, especially with like the Kirk, Spock, McCoy dynamic, but also like with Scotty and the rest of them. And in the Next Gen, like that core 7, you could just feel how much those people even like each other in real life and how well that translates into the show. And famously,
the only reason it survived that first season, I think, because the stories weren't there. Like
weren't there, right? But you felt like this chemistry between them. And famously, like everyone on the original series cast hated Shatner off screen, even Nimoy at first. Although they kind of eventually became friends. But yeah, most people found Shatner was like kind of the diva and kind of like not getting along with everybody. But on screen, you never felt that. It
only got picked up based on his personality. Like they all tried it without him and failed. And then he comes in, he's just like, I got this show. Put it right here.
Yes.
So that's a lot of pressure as well. Like he was carrying that show.
Yeah, him and Spock. I think that both and I think that in the show, even when it was popular, it was never, as popular as the other stuff that was happening.
DS9 cast, I think, was just so big. Like I think they have amazing chemistry and they're great actors. It's just so big, it's hard to kind of narrow in on this family or friend group like you can in the TNG cast or TOS cast. But
I do think it's telling that the characters that pop in Voyager are the Doctor and Seven. The two who, at least in theory, aren't like regular people. And there's a sort of it's a bit. There's a few later Voyager episodes where. Not my favorites, where the Doctor is trying to teach Seven how to socialize, and I just can't get away from the notion that this is being written by 20-something young men who are still trying to figure out how to talk to girls at parties.
Yes,
it definitely has that.
But that kind of thing, I think there's someone in your comments making the same observation. This is the outsider, and if you're someone who feels like an outsider. who's drawn to making up stories about fantasy worlds, then these may be the characters that come out more strongly for you. And it's not the case in those shows that have that really broad appeal.
So, if you can, sell the people on the animated series.
I mean, look, it's 22 stories about Kirk, Spock, and McCoy that you didn't think existed. It's
canon.
There's the holodeck is in there. Tiberius is in there for the first time.
Do you have a favorite Lower Decks,
animated series?
TAS.
Yeah, well, the one I'm supposed to like is Yesteryear, but I didn't know that when I watched it. And I did think, this is pretty good. And I did appreciate the kind of squeeze of vinegar at the end. But I think it's the relationship between Spock and Kirk, which is most interesting to me. And as much as I enjoyed going into Spock's past in that, I couldn't help thinking that I would have enjoyed it more if he'd had Kirk to bounce off. On the other hand, even though Kirk isn't in this one at all, I think the Slaver Weapon is a genuinely brilliant piece of science fiction writing.
That's a great one.
That I think was I think I gave that 4.5 stars out of 5. I didn't give anything in the animated series 5 stars out of 5, but I gave that. I think there's a bunch that get 4, including Yesteryear, and then the Slaver Weapon is the only one that gets 4.5.
It was what is it? How Sharp a Swordsman's Tooth that won an Emmy. Yeah.
Yes, unaccountably.
World Mind saying animated series probably has Spock's most important story, which I think is Yesteryear.
He's talking
yes,
about
it'll be Yesteryear. Yeah, it is good stuff. And if I rewatched it, I might, knowing it's the one I'm supposed to adore, then maybe I would think more highly of it. But like I said, I just
beloved
kept thinking,
T'Challa.
Yeah, well, where is Kirk? And I think it just takes the scenic route. It takes a little bit too long for a 22-minute episode to get to the really important thing about the sacrifice that Spock has to make, and adult Spock kind of counseling his younger self.
It sets up a great joke in that Strange New Worlds crossover with Lower Decks as well. It's just like, you didn't ask him about his Ceylon, did you?
Yes.
What was that reference in Lower Decks recently, Davin, that had those weird aliens near the end of the most recent season that were like the one that the guy thought was a conspiracy, but then they turned out to be real? And apparently they're from the animated series, which name escapes me right now.
Right. The very kind of outlandish. And I didn't remember it from the animated series. But but it was like that. I forget what they're called.
They're against like the Romulans or something. Like Tom, you might remember better than us.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
There's one episode, I can't remember what it's called, where it's just the crew playing practical jokes on each other for 20 minutes, which is kind of ghastly. Like even more than any of the other shows, you get the impression this was really hard to do, and they're having to just keep churning them out week after week.
It was the episode Caves I'm thinking of.
Oh, Caves. Right.
And it has to do with like the Vendorians. That's what I'm thinking of. Like, which are like these weird, like looking jellyfish looking aliens.
Strange.
Yeah. So there's another argument that, hey, you just didn't know what the hell they're talking about in Lower Decks. You should watch
Caves?
There's an episode of Lower Decks.
Lower Decks called Caves.
Yeah. So Lower Decks loves to reference the animated series. There was also like that whole thing where like they've been making those shorts with like the crisp. No, it's not the Chris Pine group, is it? Or maybe it's the new Strange New Worlds.
Oh,
actors.
Yeah, the short treks.
The short treks,
yeah,
which I wouldn't recommend. But
no, there's a couple that are interesting, but they're a mixed bag to be sure. They're mainly Discovery, and there's a few other bits and pieces knocking around there too. I think it's a Lower Decks one. I think there's at least one like precursor Strange New Worlds one.
Yeah, and even when you just think about like the live action versus the animated versions of Star Trek, do you have any other major like sort of feelings on it, or a preference, or is it all just Star Trek to you?
I mean, before Lower Decks, I think I would have said that you need the subtleties of acting that live action can give you, and that animated shows really struggle to. But like I said, Lower Decks is right now. If you said there's a new episode of Star Trek on, like now, you can go and watch it. What would I hope? Which series would I hope it would be from? Probably would be Lower Decks.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It has no right to be. But it is like it even feels by the end of it, somehow they cram like the feeling of a full TNG episode into 22 minutes of comedy. By the end, you still feel like you've got the lessons from a TNG episode and the character development and everything, because they all talk so fast too.
Yeah.
So they do. It's probably about as long as a TNG script. Anyway,
Yes.
It's all packed together.
yeah, just slammed together, but it's so good. And well, what do you think of Strange New Worlds? I mean, in going back to the TOS era, do you think it was a successful kind of visual reboot and even the spirit of it?
Yeah, I really liked Strange New Worlds. I was sort of heartened to see that Majel Barrett's so irreplaceable that we have to get 2 different actors to replace her. That's kind of fun. I think Anson Mount's doing a great job. I think it's still, I think, a little bit caught between wanting to be a grown-up modern streaming series with lots of serialization and wanting to get back to that old-fashioned story of the week thing. And I think it's slightly, I can feel like that slight tension between those two. Obviously, it's not as serialized as Picard or even as Discovery, but it's nor is it completely committed to that adventure of the week. But I love the fact that it's experimenting. I love obviously the crossover with Lower Decks. I love the musical episode. I think to do that in your second year, when year is 10 episodes, is ballsy. And I like shows that take risks. And I am happy with the fact that not all those risks are going to pay off. But I really had a good time watching it.
Yeah, I like my wife kept saying, I just want a show where it's episodic. Why do I have to why is it these long arcs and everything else?
I don't have to do homework before I sit down and watch it.
Yeah,
that's what's great about Lower Decks. You can sit down and just watch an episode of Lower Decks, and there's a bit of serialization.
There's a bit of serialization, but not enough.
More just in character development.
Yeah.
But even TNG had that.
Yeah,
true. Yeah. To Sam's point, a little serialization without, I guess unlike the D Space Nine 9-part finale, which is very specific, right? So,
yeah, they're like the only Deep Space Nine episodes I can't figure out by title because they're all kind of the same.
Yeah, they're all.
You guys were like, we're reviewing Penumbra. I'm like, what's Penumbra? Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, like a lot of them are similar titles, but the episodic ones I find is more my preference. I don't mind some arcs and things like that, but that's definitely been a struggle with some of the newer shows. In Strange New Worlds, it's all about the Gorn, I guess. Now they're like the new thing,
It's the Gorn.
It's the Gorn.
Yeah, it's the Gorn. How do you feel? Like you talked about Captain Pike, being so different in that original Cage you watched, being sort of this guy who doesn't want to be captain. He's all stressed out and the stress of it. But Anson Mount's version, very different. And now I guess will become the definitive version of this character moving forward, right? So how do you feel like it's been an upgrade on that character?
I sort of slipped sideways. I think would have become apparent if Jeffrey Hunter had come back that you can't tell stories week after week with the guy who was in the cage. And so I think what they've done on Strange New Worlds is they've used this premonition. They've used the fact that this guy now knows a very salient fact about his own future, and that's kind of caused him to reevaluate a bit more. So now he's just kind of a bit more what will be, will be. But it was a really interesting episode, and I don't really know it well enough to go into detail, but that episode which kind of contrasted his approach with Kirk's approach, I thought was fascinating, especially because it
that was
came
the
out,
remake of Balance of Terror.
Yeah,
it was like
basically came out saying that Kirk was the man for the job, which to do that whole episode, the point of which is to undermine your central character, is again it's ballsy. But the problem when you've got a series like the original series of Star Trek with characters that did the job so brilliantly as Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, now whenever you create, especially a new captain, you kind of have to say, well, how's this person not like Kirk? Because Kirk is the ideal captain. And they did it with TNG in casting. It's hard to imagine two actors more dissimilar than William Shatner and Patrick Stewart. And in these long-running series, what tends to happen if anything is working at all is you were talking before about that slight serialization in the form of character development. Well, often that's not something which is sat down and planned the way you would sit down and plan an arc for a character in a writer's room over 10 or 12 episodes today. Just that what happens is the writers start noticing what the actors are doing, and they start writing more to that performance, and then the performance starts to be more comfortable because the writing is more sympathetic, and that kind of symbiosis starts to happen. It happens in a lot of long-running shows. I don't know if you know this, but over Christmas I read Patrick Stewart's autobiography.
Oh, interesting. I haven't had a chance yet.
One of the things he says is that the one acting note he took from William Shatner is that when it came to his chance or his turn to record the opening narration, he basically thought, having heard Shatner's version, that was unimprovable. And so he just did it beat for beat, the same as Shatner.
Interesting.
That's funny. Anson Mount said he was a bit of intimidated by that.
Yeah.
Reading the opening as well. He just decided to try to be nothing like it. He said he's just like, I'm just gonna just do me. Like,
yes,
it's all I can do.
I was so happy when they brought that into the when the first episode of Strange New Worlds hit and that was in there, because I was like, when Deep Space Nine had and all the shows that came after were just musical. I was like, what is this? This isn't in the spirit of Star Trek.
Opening gets me every time.
Yes.
You could have the music and have a voiceover, but
I would like to hear Avery Brooks take a go at that opening. I will admit that would be amazing. Kate Mulgrew too, for that matter.
All of them, right? Because they all, even Archer, who's not my favorite captain, but he's all right.
I'm the Archer defender on our network.
Oh, really? I like him.
They don't make it easy, but
I like him fine. But he has a nasty tendency to slip into angry headmaster mode.
Yes.
I think he's less successful like that. When he's the kind of good old boy captain you want to have a beer with, I think that kind of works. But he keeps getting tetchy. It's partly because a lot of his crew are useless. I'm looking at you, Trip. You are a complete waste of space.
He's the engineer who never wants to be in engineering.
I know.
Like, why are you just lingering on the bridge, dude? It's creepy. Like,
he just makes the McCoy never wants to be in sickbay.
Yeah, it's true. McCoy doesn't
just
ever
makes
want to be in sickbay.
bad decisions at every turn. So I understand why someone has to smack him upside the head. I just don't. That's not the Star Trek show I want to watch. We had all that fun time over 4 different series where we had competent people who were brilliant at their jobs to whom we could look up, and then Enterprise, I just felt for a lot of it was, why are we watching these doofuses?
Well, yeah,
I get that feeling from Discovery sometimes.
But the first season of Enterprise, because they were trying to establish that they were like the pioneers and like they're brand new to this. But I kept saying, you
got to keep that in mind.
As we did the review of the show, I was like, "Is this the best Earth has to offer?" I'm like, "This is the crew we're sending up." Like,
Well, I thought that's what was so brilliant about that episode where they contrast him with A.G. Robinson, and they basically the episode makes the point that A.G. was better than Archer for this job, so A.G. sort of had to give him this talk. It's just like, dude, like chill. Like just do your job and like don't stress about living up to your father's legacy and all this other crap. Just do the job. And he's like, you have to deal with people too. Like, especially since now, like that's the thing. Archer as Earth's like basically #1 ambassador out there in space is the questionable part. He can like run a ship fine enough, but like sending him to planet after planet is maybe not the way to go.
History in every light.
We're making history with every light year.
Yeah, so my journey was always supposed to end with Enterprise, and a few people have asked, is there going to be yet another either set of blog posts or book when I'm going to do Discovery and Strange New Worlds and so on? And the answer for the moment is no, and that's partly because I'd have to start with the J.J. Abrams films. No thanks.
And you'd have to watch those to do that,
exactly.
And that's
and
might not be worth it.
But then also. Enterprise finished in 2005, so there's plenty of space between it and me, and I can put it in context. Whereas to do the same project with a show that hasn't finished yet, that's still ongoing, just feels like a different thing. Not a worse thing, not a better thing, but a different thing. So if I ever did do Discovery and Strange New Worlds and so on, it would be 10 years from now.
That makes sense.
Well, I guess
audiobooks. Any audio? Are you getting audio versions of these books?
I haven't asked to do those yet, and I certainly today wouldn't be able to record them terribly successfully. There's an audiobook version of the Best Pick book, so I guess if enough people buy the paper book, then that might suggest that the demand is there for the audiobook version. So if you want to hear the audiobook version, you know what to do.
Fair enough.
Well, we did talk. We talked about original and animated. Your book also covers the first 6 movies, right?
Yeah.
The original cast movies, and then into Next Generation. So, what was the experience of going through the movies?
The motion picture is one I really have very complicated feelings about. As an achievement, it's extraordinary, even compared to the original series, which I think scores really well on this. The motion picture has the most incredible soundscape. Not the score, though the score is also terrific, but the kind of oral language. It feels like nothing else. And there's good stuff there. There's really good stuff there. But what there isn't is a story. Or what story there is not a story which involves the people that I care about and their relationships. Because this is really about Decker versus V'ger. And I don't care about either of those people. Kirk gets sidelined. McCoy gets nothing to do apart from actually in all 6 movies, McCoy gets nothing to do except be somebody for Kirk to talk to.
Yeah, he's like Kirk's buddy, sidekick. There's no thing.
It's only Spock who has anything resembling an arc, and I think that's because the rest of the script was written without Spock. Because as you guys, I'm sure you know, it's a hodgepodge of material from a 70s Star Trek movie that never got made, the Star Trek Phase 2 TV series, which was about to go into production, was then abandoned. So it's all these mongrel bits and pieces stitched together. And then at the last minute, Robert Wise's daughter, I think, or granddaughter said, "But Daddy, you can't have Star Trek without Spock." And they made one final appeal to Leonard Nimoy. So at that point, somebody had to say, what is Spock's journey through this film? And he is the only person for whom that question was ever asked and answered. So he has something resembling an arc. Everyone else is just like there. They're just like hanging out. Even the stuff between Kirk and Decker just goes away halfway through the film. It's never resolved. It never amounts to anything. It never pays off. It just stops.
Because Decker goes off with Ilya or whatever, and that's
well, eventually, yes. Decker and Ilya get written out at the end because who cares about them? But also even the stuff like all that stuff in the middle where they're trying to discover if any of the real Ilya is in the probe. That's a perfectly fine thing for the crew to attempt, but nothing comes of it.
No.
The story proceeds exactly as if they hadn't bothered, and a lot of that film is like that. It's a frustrating watch.
It's almost unwatchable, in my opinion. Like it's
so slow.
It's so slow.
The opening, where they're flying towards the ship and it takes in the shuttle and it takes 10 minutes. Is hilariously slow though. Like that's glorious to watch because it's
not
so
only
strange
slow.
a decision.
You watch that scene again, and you've got Kirk and Scott on board that little shuttle, and Kirk tells Scott 2 pieces of information. One piece of information is there is an unidentified alien probe of enormous destructive power heading towards Earth, and the other piece of information is they gave me the captaincy of the Enterprise back. And Scott's all like, "They gave you what?" That's the thing he's focusing on.
Well, he's a ship's guy, Scotty.
Yeah,
I guess you give him that.
There's this untold danger coming. Whatever. But you're back in command.
Yeah. Untold dangers I've seen before, but an admiral's being given a ship back. Hold my beer. No, it's kind of a mess, which is a shame. Rotho Khan, I think, was basically perfect. I could pick a couple of nits, but I'm not inclined to because when I watch the film, I have such a good time. Until suddenly I don't, and they kill off Spock. Even if you could make a case that film's a bit smug, but I think when they kill off Spock at the end, that kind of washes away any hint of that smugness. I think it's just so perfectly balanced, so felt.
The eulogy that Kirk gives, I think.
Yeah.
The script is very good. It's my 3rd favorite of the original movies, but that
oh,
doesn't mean
really?
It's not great.
Okay.
Well, I might ask you for a couple nitpicks then. See, I tell everybody the greatest movie, not just Star Trek movie, but the greatest movie ever made, I say, is Undiscovered Country. So why is Undiscovered Country not the greatest movie ever made?
Undiscovered Country is not the greatest movie ever made because about halfway through it splits in 2, and there's some quite good jolly japes with Kirk and McCoy trying to escape from prison, and then rather a dull Agatha Christie space plot with only one plausible candidate to answer the question whodunit being enacted on the Enterprise. And I'm not really here for that.
Okay.
Also, you may have a point there.
The other thing about Star Trek 6, which is just one of those things, it's just a bit weird more than anything else. What it does have going for it, again, it's Nicholas Meyer on scripting duties, and he's so good at finding things for those main three characters to do that we haven't seen them do before, particularly Kirk. He really gets Kirk, and he really finds things for Kirk to do. But having Spock be the one who says, let's broker a peace between the Federation and the Clones makes perfect sense. And so therefore you want somebody to oppose that so that there's conflict. Yes. But of the guys remaining, why would you pick the one who previously has always been the peacemaker, who in Balance of Terror is telling his crew, let's wait until we meet these Romulans, let's not prejudge them? Why wouldn't you pick the one who's always making racist comments about Spock's green blood and pointy ears to be the one who's being racist now? But no one's interested in giving McCoy anything to do.
That's a good point. I mean, he's everyone's favorite space racist for sure. Yeah. McCoy.
But that having been said, I think Kirk's arc through that is actually really strong. I think they do. I don't really know how much he cared about David. He, half an hour early, he didn't know he had a son.
He vaguely knew, but he had never met him, whatever.
But I do think that having that initial anger from Kirk and then him trying to adopt the role that he's been saddled with, whether he wants it or not, I have to be the ambassador, I have to try and make this work, I have to kind of get over my lizard brain emotional response. It's strong stuff. So there's lots of stuff I like about 6, but it's not my favorite.
Which is your favorite?
2, yeah.
Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
And your least favorite, is it 1?
No, 5.
Or is it 5?
5's just awful.
What does God need with a starship? Come on.
No, 5 is just a mess from beginning to end, unfortunately. But I do think it's very funny that you have 1, 2, and 3, and 4 to a lesser extent, but certainly 1, 2, and 3, which are all about how Kirk's getting old.
Right.
And then 5, directed by William Shatner, which begins with him flinging himself off El Capitan and proving that he's still got all the vim and vigor of a man half his age.
Absolutely. Well, it's a bit of Shatner too. You're right, because he was just on. He just turned 93 like the other day.
Oh my god!
And he's a sprier 93 you will never find.
Yes, him and Mel Brooks.
Seriously.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah, give me what they got. That's for sure. Yeah, Mel Brooks too. Geez, he's probably 100.
I think he's getting on for 100. Yeah.
Well,
how do you feel about
this isn't? Oh, I was going to say this is an interesting from our buddy Murphy here. He was curious because we did a Trek 10 recently on Trek 10 ideas that would be fun to pick up for a Star Trek Legacy series that Terry Matalas has mentioned he'd want to do. What are some storylines you'd like to see picked up for such a series?
I do find it interesting. Again, just as kind of as a quirk of the way that these shows were devised and released. Deep Space Nine, in theory, completely upends everything we thought we knew about Star Trek. Puts the Federation through this incredibly brutal war, rewrites our relationship with all sorts of other alien races.
And Starfleet, are they the good guys?
Yeah.
And then asked that question.
Basically, then that has no effect on any of the future of the franchise whatsoever, because then the show that's on the air after Deep Space Nine goes off the air is Voyager. Nobody on Voyager has the slightest idea what's happening back in the Alpha Quadrant, and then Enterprise, for which that's all hundreds of years in the future. So I'm sure there are threads from the repercussions of everything that happened in Deep Space Nine which have gone unexplored for years, which would be fascinating to start looking at again.
Season 3 of Picard gives us a little one.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Lower Decks a little bit.
Lower Decks a little bit.
Even Lower Decks, even though it's the theory set after all of that happened, it sort of feels like it's set in season 3 of Next Gen.
Sometimes. Yeah. It's also what they reference the most. They reference a lot of TNG.
It's one of the things that's wrong with Insurrection is they're kind of weakly waving a hand in the direction of the fact that maybe the Federation aren't such great guys all the time. But they don't commit to it because it's not what the story is really about. But
they put it on the bad roll again. Yeah. It's not Starfleet, it's that bad roll. But it's like, well, how many bad rolls do you have to have before it's a Starfleet problem?
Is there a good admiral?
As I think John Oliver pointed out, the whole phrase is, one bad apple ruins the barrel. It's not enough to say it was one bad apple. That's not the point of the phrase.
It's like people cutting off the customer's always right. Like that's only half of that
Yes.
phrase as well.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
like, what is it? In
Yeah.
the manner of style.
It matters of
or-
taste. Yeah.
Matters in taste.
Yeah. Yes, I know what I
So,
like, but
yeah.
it doesn't mean that I'm entitled to 150% off just because I feel like it.
No, exactly right.
And
Well-
on the Star Trek: The Next Generation, you said earlier your favorite character was Data. Is that right, or the character you'd want to be?
I was under an enormous amount of pressure, but I believe
It's
that's
a
what I
rapid
said,
fire.
yes. Yeah, it really is. Data, I think. So you have this thing that this outsider character, as one of your commenters said, and Spock had kind of been the apotheosis of that. And when it's a bit like when they replaced the SNL cast for the first time. Everyone's saying so Data's the new Spock, Riker's the new Kirk, and so on. But the combination of a broad comedy performer forced to underplay in order to embody this character, and the notion of what it means to be an artificial being, I think, was so rich. And those early triumphs in Next Generation episodes, like The Measure of a Man, which I think is the first one I gave 5 stars to, are
one of
about
my
Data's about Data's
Perfect television.
personhood. Yeah, fantastic stuff. And I think he really becomes the breakout character. You can see that in the movies, in the TV show. Just I think because they were following the lead of the original series, the titles are always Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes, and then everyone else in alphabetical order. But in the movies, it's Patrick Stewart, Brent Spiner, because he was the standout. He was the breakout star.
Yeah.
There are some bad Data episodes, but Brent Spiner's always watchable. And then when they let him do his array of silly voices, I guess the one I really can't stand.
What about Masks?
Masks.
I like
Masks is pretty dumb. But no,
Yeah,
the one I can't stand is when Geordie tries to teach him stand-up comedy.
Oh, and he's there with Joe Piscopo.
But Joe Piscopo, exactly. Yeah. That's pretty awful.
I don't like any Jerry Lewis impression, really, so yeah, I'm not there for that either.
That one's not good.
I don't even
here's
like it when Jerry Lewis does it.
Well, you mentioned the great performance of Brent Spiner in that role. Of all the series of Star Trek we've seen, which actor do you think brought the most to their role, and why is it Andrew Robinson as Gary?
Okay, you guys must know this story, but I always find this a bit heartbreaking. You must know what Andrew Robinson thought of that part when he first read the script.
I'm not sure I do.
He looked at the way that that Garrick was relating to Bashir and thought,
yes.
I think he wants to. I'm not sure what I can say on this podcast. I think he wants intimate relations.
You can say anything you want on this show.
I think I heard Andrew Robinson say when I read the script, I thought, he wants to fuck him. And Alexander Siddig and Andrew Robinson kind of colluded on playing the subtext.
Oh, in that first one, it's thick.
They've never been a gay character on Star Trek. Even though Gene Roddenberry, before he died, had told fans the time's come for a gay character, Rick Berman was too risk-averse and wouldn't do it. So Siddig and Robinson carried on playing this until Rick Berman found out.
Yeah.
It's the funny things, they're risk averse too, though. Yeah. Gay character, risk averse. Yeah. Character dating a 15-year-old person.
Yes.
Perfectly fine.
Fine.
Yeah. But there's I think it was during lockdown, there was a bit of fan fiction that Andrew Robinson it was just Andrew Robinson performed as Garrick, at the end of which he said, "I have to go, my husband's calling me." And her husband is Dr. Bashir. I just think that's gorgeous. That's absolutely beautiful. So, Andrew Robinson is one of those brilliant bits of casting. Though, in answer to your question, I think I would still have to say that the one who, if it isn't William Shatner, as you said, bore the whole weight of that show on his back and made it work, it's Patrick Stewart. And the reason I think I would go for Patrick Stewart over William Shatner is simply because, as inspired as that casting was, he is the kind of actor you would tend to cast in that kind of part. He'd been doing cop shows and westerns on television. I don't think he had a leading part before, but he'd been playing those kind of heroic square-jawed figures. And it was, I think, assumed that Picard would be something not dissimilar. Roddenberry always goes on about both those characters being based on Horatio Hornblower. To me, they're very, very different. And a lot of that difference comes from the fact that you have two very different actors bringing very different things. And Patrick Stewart, this was pretty much uncharted territory. He's done a few movies, but he was really a creature of the stage. You can see in those early episodes quite a lot of those young male actors who are used to playing lawyers and doctors in suits, who are now in these spandex jumpsuits and they have no idea what to do with their hands. But Patrick Stewart always looks at home because he spent 15 years at the Royal Shakespeare Company playing kings in tights. He knows exactly how to be high status without pockets.
He totally knows how to move his arms.
And if that casting hadn't worked, we would not have got a series 2 of TNG, even if everyone else had been just as good. He is the one who I think more than really anyone else takes what's on the page and wraps it around himself to create a character. Everyone else is interpreting the words, but he is reinventing that as it's 50% Gene Roddenberry and 50% Patrick Stewart.
I feel like that show kind of reinvented Star Trek in a way too, and I feel like that's when they really defined what this utopian future kind of really looks like.
The other thing that jumped out at me, knowing Next Generation much better than the original series, when I rewatch original series, is how late in the day There's No Money in the Future shows up. Star Trek 4.
Yeah, they get paid in the TOS for sure.
They do, absolutely. Yeah. And even later, Star Trek 3, McCoy is haggling for the price of a ship. But it's one of those things you just assume was always there. And actually, it's a fairly late invention. And then, of course, Deep Space Nine, they have to tie themselves in knots because they want the Ferengi to be regular characters. And so we have all this nonsense about gold press platinum, which I never really understood. But sure, it's fine. It works.
Yeah, I love the Ferengi. But I was going to say, I feel like the character of Picard, and like to what you were saying about what he brought to the role, that character makes you believe that future is possible more than any other character in Star Trek. Like just the way he acts, it's just like, okay, maybe people can act like that. Star Trek future. But yeah.
Well, yeah. What I find interesting, if you even just look at of those original shows, original series through to Enterprise, all of those captains, admittedly, like they're not really fans of science fiction at all. Like Kate Mulgrew, Patrick Stewart, all of them, they're not really science fiction fans. But going back to Shatner and to Patrick Stewart, they were so committed to, as actors, and both being Shakespearean and both being like trained in the formal sense. That was kind of like the through line through all of them, right? Kate Mulgrew said that was like the hardest standard to kind of learn. It's the techno babble, but also like believing in what you're saying, and giving that gravitas to it. It's not easy.
Well, should we wrap this up, or do you get anything else for our guest here, Cousin Dave?
Just one question, I guess, is how do you feel this experience? What was your arc? How did it change you?
That's a good idea. That's a great question.
It's weird to end on Enterprise because I had good reasons for doing that. I knew that's where I was going, and yes, Enterprise does kind of get better as it goes on, to a degree. But it's remarkable. Looking at, because I was watching all these on DVDs and Blu-rays, partly to get the behind-the-scenes stuff, partly just so I wasn't reliant on any particular streaming service. And the tone of the behind-the-scenes stuff on Enterprise is like nothing I've ever seen before. Brandon Braga in particular is just so eager to apologize for basically everything.
Oh, geez.
And I think if that show had been exactly the same for those 4 years and then run another 3 years, I don't think it would be seen as the kind of half-hearted failure, which he seems bizarrely eager to present it as. Because there is good stuff there, pretty much all the way through. It's just that it feels a bit misconceived, and it was taking even longer than usual to find its legs.
It was the first prequel they ever did, and there was a few things with it that were kind of maybe working against it. Franchise fatigue.
Yeah, and Berman and Braga wanted to spend the whole year getting the ship built and getting them out into space, which might have worked or might not. Who can say? But the studio basically wanted another version of TOS, so wanted them going and meeting alien chicks as soon as possible. And so there's this sort of disconnect between what the creators want to do and what is being asked of them. And it all just feels a bit like hammering a square peg into a round hole. And year 3 is this sort of like response to 9/11 in space.
Let's do Deep Space Nine for a season.
Yes. But also it makes less and less sense as it goes on. So you open with this incredible super weapon, which can just cut chunks out of Earth at a moment's notice. And then the rest of the year is like, we're nearly finished building our super weapon, and we'll be testing it very soon. What?
It's like, why wasn't the prototype good enough? It's like, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Why don't you build more of those? Or I'll tell you what, have more of those ready to go before you send the first one to its final destination. It
does have some high highs, though, that like Dear Doctor, usually the Phlox episodes.
Phlox is terrific. Wonderful performance from John Billingsley. Jolene Blaylock is, I think, remarkable, managing to... again, on paper, it's a bad idea for a character because it's 50% Spock and 50% 7 and 9, but she makes it work. And then at the 11th hour, they find a way of kind of retconning the retcon because I did not recognize the Vulcans for 3 years of that show. I was like, who are these guys? Who just seem...
they're the biggest assholes in like, the galaxy.
Huge, the galaxy's biggest bullies, assholes. All these weird things that they get pissed off about for no reason at all when they are not being in any way, shape, or form logical. And then you have the Reeve Stevens coming on and going, but what if this was all part of the plan? What if it turned out the Vulcans needed the humans as much as the humans needed the Vulcans? And we just kind of, it sort of works if you squint at it, but...
they sort of address the Vulcans in that 3-part or 2 where they're like, there was like some corrupt guys at the top and blah, blah, blah. But, they did the bad roll thing, actually.
But you're right. That's how we felt about it. What did humanity kind of contribute to, I guess, the founding of the Federation into the Vulcan culture? It was definitely like, becoming less uptight, I guess.
Just being able to work with other people is how they like kind of show the humans to be in that series. There were one person that are just willing to talk to everybody. It's just like, yes, I know you don't like Tellarites, nobody does, but let's just go talk to them anyway.
Yes. There's hints of that, but it doesn't really work. So there's this sense, I think, that the show starts to kind of, the franchise starts to kind of broaden out after TNG, which is let's do the original series again, but let's do it in the 80s. And then it just starts to kind of to fray. And I think that is a shame. It's always nice when shows can go out on a high. And I think none of those successful shows, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, none of their 7th years is their highest points. But I think all 3 final episodes are pretty good. TNG, my favorite by some distance, but I think the finales of Deep Space Nine and Voyager do kind of work.
Voyager's is just a bit rushed.
Well, the finale of Voyager is sort of all the things I like and detest about Voyager in one bonkers greatest hits package. What I ended up kind of loving about Voyager was just like, let's just go nuts. What's the most bonkers thing we could put in the first 5 minutes of an episode and see if we can get away with this? And that finale is all about that. But Enterprise just sort of feels tired. So it was a shame to go on that journey and then end with a whimper rather than a bang.
I don't think going to the blue uniforms helped either. Like I think that
they did not, and we'll talk about that on the uniform ranking convention.
Okay.
That's true. Dave's our uniform aficionado.
Yes, I'm a uniform guy.
Which is your favorite uniform, Dave?
My favorite uniform? Oh, good question. I think it's actually, I think it's still the the color top jumpsuit, like the Deep Space. What started off on Deep Space Nine and was pretty much the uniform all of Voyager. Yeah, like the one Davin's wearing right now, kind of. I think that's still my favorite. I think it's just the one but there's a.
You prefer that to the TNG black shoulders, colored. Torso.
That one's okay, but it's a little. It doesn't look comfortable,
it needed a separation between the shirt and pant.
Yeah,
which they eventually did add.
I was going to say from season 3 they've got that, haven't they? They've got it
they do.
The Monster Maroons are really up there for me too. I really like that Wrath of Khan style uniform. So we're Davin and I are doing that in like a week or 2 weeks. Davin, we're ranking every single uniform in like a tier.
April 5th.
Oh, that's one of my pet theories, by the way, because obviously they changed the meanings of the colors for TNG compared to TOS. So why isn't Patrick Stewart in gold?
Wonder what
people
the
say
reason was
he
for
didn't
that.
suit gold. Well, I don't really know what that means. But my private theory is that for 4 movies, well, no, 3 movies, because we did different costumes in the first one. For 3 movies, we'd see the captain in red. Because everyone was in red, sure, but we just got used to seeing the captain in red. And so I think it made sense to see the captain in red on TNG.
I think the main reason that I've always heard was that Brent Spiner's makeup looked better with him in a yellow uniform than in a red uniform. So that's what they did that.
We get to see him in red, so that is true. He does look better in yellow.
But is that just because that's what he used to?
Yeah, but they changed it apparently very late before they went to film the pilot. So, interesting how these things kind of work out. And Gavin, are we doing a rundown here, or what's the?
Where can everyone find your book?
Wherever books are sold, as the adage has it. So it should be on Amazon. I don't know if is there like a big Canadian equivalent of Barnes and Noble or something like that.
Indigo
Right.
chapters.
It's probably there.
But we have Amazon too, so
maybe some kind soul can find a link to the book on Indigo and stick it in the show notes.
We can look for that for sure. We already have the
indeed.
link to the UK version to your book, the pre-orders. You can find that in the description of this video. But we'll also look for the Canadian and American equivalents.
And there will be a Kindle version out, I think, later this year. I don't know why the Kindle version isn't out at the same time as the hardback, but there it is. And then Volume 2, I think, is going to be out same time next year.
Excellent.
Alrighty. And check out books written by Tom Salinsky here. Check out for book number 2 coming out, and maybe in 10 years' time, book number 3.
Okay.
No, book number 4 in 10
Number
years'
4,
time.
yeah.
Number 4. 3 is a guarantee. So.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I had a blast.
Thank you, Tom.
All right.
Been great.
Thank you, Tom. And guess there's only one thing left to say.
In transmission.